thought telling my story was enough, but people ain't paying you to tell your story. People want thought leadership. People want you to solve their problems. And I didn't even know that until somebody had to teach me that. And so I'm like, okay, my story is not, it's good, but it ain't getting me paid.
Hey, what's up, friends? Grant Baldwin here. Welcome back to the Speaker Lab podcast. Excited for today's conversation with Kimberly Clark. And Kimberly actually went through one of our programs here at the Speaker Lab and has been killing it as a speaker. So excited to chat with her today and hear the results she's been getting and what's working for her. So Kimberly, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm super excited to be here, man.
We had a few technical issues making this happen, but we're here. We got it done, and that's it's kind of like just this overall principle in the world of speaking is like the show must go on, right? And so you got to kind of roll with whatever is thrown at you. So first of all, once we kind of zoom out, kind of give us a little bit of context on who you speak to, what do you speak about, how does speaking fit into the world of Kimberly Clark?
Okay, yeah. Well, as a teen resilient speaker, like I help teens overcome the inner critic by helping them shift their mindset, help them make better choices. I teach them emotional intelligence. And so I call myself the emotional intelligence expert, right? And so, I got into teens because, I wanted to see where my story, where my expertise would help the most. And like my self-esteem issues started at the teen. So I'm like, all right, that's where my calling is.
Very cool. And are you typically speaking to like school assemblies or student leadership conferences or events, or like what types of events are you usually speaking at?
Mainly at like teen leadership conferences, things like that. But I have done some assemblies, but mainly conferences.
And how are you typically finding these conferences right now?
Doing mostly cold outreach. There's some warm outreach as well I'm still getting gigs from other gigs that I got. Yeah.
And are you doing more like keynotes, workshops? What kind of talks are you giving?
I'm doing both. I think workshops are my favorite though, because I get to more interaction with the teens and kind of hear their perspective and stuff. But I'm doing both, keynote and workshop. Yeah.
And are you speaking like how often are you speaking right now?
About once or twice a month.
Okay. And then how long have you been at it, just for context?
Ooh, I think this is year 3.
Okay. Cool. So you're doing, this year it sounds like you'll do, 15, 20, 25 gigs or so. Very cool. And again, that's all in the youth space.
All in the youth space. Yeah.
What's your day job? Cause you're not doing this full time yet, right?
Not yet.
Right.
I'm a peer support specialist for the Louisiana Department of Health, and so I do that during the day, and I do both.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what is that like as a peer support specialist? What does that mean?
That is basically like a mental health counselor in a way. I have lived experiences with addiction, with mental illnesses, things like that. And so I help other people recover from my own lived experiences.
Gotcha. All right. Now let's go back in time because it sounds like a lot of what you speak about today kind of comes out of your own story and journey. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
What and so like when you talk about like resilience for students, can you share a little bit about like what's your life been like that has led to the point where it's like I want to speak on this topic because here's something that I know if I can help other students deal with this and overcome this and address this, that this is what I wish I had when I was a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I went to the military. At 17 years old, I went to the Navy, got stationed in Guam. I was a small town girl, actually from a village, not even a town, and got stationed in Guam. Loved it. Experienced the MST, which is a military sexual trauma, and that changed everything about my life. Everything, right? And so I ended up attempting suicide after the MST. And was medevaced back to the States, and where I received a medical discharge from the Navy. And 2 weeks after I got home from the Navy, I was introduced to cocaine. And so that with a 5-minute introduction, I believe, ended up being a 12, 13-year journey of, in and out of jail, in and out of rehab, in and out of like psych wards, believing that I was crazy, believing that something was really, really wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so doing some soul work, going through doing the actual work on myself,
Yeah.
I went back to the root of it, and I knew that my self-esteem, my insecurities, all those limiting beliefs that I had started as a teen. That's where it started, right? And so whenever we do drugs, we make that decision because we don't know how to cope with life. We don't love ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And so there's always a choice that leads up to actually using drugs. And I had to figure out what that was. And that started as a teen. And I'm like, okay, bet. If I can reach the teens at that level, while they're feeling this the most intensely, while they're not feeling like themselves, not knowing who they are, not loving who they are, not knowing that there's a way out of how they're feeling, and that there really is hope. There
Yeah.
really is. I felt hopeless back then, and so if I can connect with them authentically, not just surface level, all the cliche things they hear all the time, but come to them real, raw, and authentic, then I can reach them there. Then I think I got a real something on my hands.
Yeah. When you joined the military, was that like a lifelong dream to join the military, or why did you get in the military in the first place?
Oh no, it wasn't at all. The recruiter was just really, really handsome. And
That's
he was
such an
just
honest
really, really
answer.
handsome.
You're like, hey,
Yeah.
if I could be around you, sign me up. I'm in.
Yeah, for sure. No, I had plans to go to the University of Louisiana Monroe. I actually got accepted to a few different colleges, including LSU Baton Rouge. And I'm here in Louisiana, by the way. And so my plan was to major in psychology, minor in social work. I wanted to understand people. I wanted to work with people. And I ended up talking to this recruiter my senior year of high school. And he was just as handsome as ever. And he was telling me that I could travel the world, go to school at the same time, because school
Yeah.
was still the plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sounded perfect. And so I fell for the okie doke and and joined the Navy. Yeah,
And so you're in the Navy. You go to Guam. Guam's what, like in the South Pacific, isn't it? It's
it
way.
is.
It's
It
like
is.
way the heck out there. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it
there's
is.
nothing down there. Which on one hand, you're like South Pacific. That's pretty. That's nice. But also like being on a military base and being stationed out there. It's not like it's a vacation by any means. And so you're out there. You have this again, like what you described, this military sexual trauma, and then come back, or you have the suicide attempt. Come back to the States. Like I can't even begin to like fathom just what life was like at that point, and kind of what I assume is like the lowest of lows for you. Can you tell us more about like where you were at, just mentally, emotionally at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. Mentally, emotionally, I never really felt that low. Like I didn't have purpose and like understanding of who I was and what I wanted to do. And I got bullied, my whole life growing up by people at school, by family members, by all those even strangers, right? And so the military, wearing that uniform, it gave me purpose. It gave me
Mm.
respect. It gave me acceptance, right? And so emotionally, I was fine. I thrived in the Navy. I loved my job. I loved what I did. I loved serving my country. And so when that happened, that stripped away that purpose. It stripped away that acceptance. It stripped away that identity I had in that uniform and being a sailor, serving my country. And so
Mhm.
emotionally I was distraught. Like I didn't have identity at all anymore. I didn't
Yeah.
know who I was, and I didn't know what was going on in my life at all.
And so you mentioned that at that point after the suicide attempt, you come back and pretty quickly thereafter get into cocaine, and that leads you down a crazy path. Is it at what point did you feel like you reached rock bottom?
Oh wow, I think I reached rock bottom a few times in there, because during those years of addiction, there were times when I got clean for a little while and all that. I think the longest I got clean at one point was about a year, and so the real rock bottom for me, I remember being my mother had my kids, right? I was legally separated from my husband at the time. I was down in well, I say the hood, right, in this abandoned shotgun house in the middle of winter, right, getting high, and I was ready to go. I was like, Father, like I'm tired of this. I'm ready for you to take me. And I'd owed some people some money. I could hear them outside talking about what they were going to do to me, and I knew that it was over for me. And out of the blue, this guy who knew me and knew like my family or knew my husband's family. He just showed up out of nowhere and literally vouched for me. Showed up out of nowhere. He's the only reason I made it out alive that night. And he vouched for me that night from all the people that I owed, that they were literally planning to take my life. And it wasn't the eye opener, but it was the biggest eye opener because there was a lot that happened that still didn't, make me get clean. But that was one of the biggest eye openers of my life. Being that close to death and not caring.
Yeah.
That scared me.
So that night in that house, when they're plotting to kill you or whatever it may be, you just kind of feel like, good. Like it gives me a way out of this. Is that where you're at?
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt then. Yeah, for sure.
So what's like what happens at that point of going, okay, I'm at like the lowest of lows, and it's not, my assumption is, you're not waking up the next morning going like, I should be a speaker. You know what? This is crazy. I got to tell some people this, like connect the dots for me there. How do you go from like the lowest of lows? I have been, on the doorstep of death multiple times, and now I'm killing it as a speaker. Like, what happened after that? Like you start to pick yourself up off the floor, literally or figuratively, and then from there, like, how does speaking start to enter the picture?
Okay. Well, I would love to tell you that I just decided one day I was tired and I had enough and I was tired of the lifestyle and I was tired of getting high. I would love to tell you that, but none of that was true. I loved getting high. I liked the feeling that it gave me. I was addicted to the lifestyle, the entertainment. It was as if God literally came down here and snatched me out of the life I was living. He changed my heart. It felt like suddenly. And then every other door opened up after that. As far as like I stole from my mother, I hurt my mother in all different kind of ways, and I went home at the end of 2020 for Christmas, and to be with my kids for a few days. Excuse me. And so on the way back out, when I was heading back to where I was getting high at, my mother said, you can come back if you want to. Now I was barely allowed at her house, barely, because of all the things I put her through. She said, you can come back if you want to. So all of a sudden I had a plan. So I went back. I stayed for maybe less than a week, only a few days. And I came back to my mother's house. I waited for the VA to get me into a rehabilitation, went to rehab and came home. Went to rehab, got introduced to EMDR therapy, which completely changed my life.
Wow.
And yeah. And I got home and I started writing my first book. I started writing about my life. Now, I knew I wanted to write. I knew the title of this book when I was a teenager, right? And so I was stuck between pleasure and pleasing God. And so I started writing the book. It took me a year to write it. After I wrote it, I been marketing it on social media and all the things, and churches and stuff started reaching out. Hey, I want you to come tell your story. I'm like, cool, and so I went to churches first, and then other different organizations that wanted me to tell my story, and that's what it was at first. I just wanted to tell my story. I was cool with that. Like, I just wanted to make an impact. I just wanted people to know that there's hope after dope. I know that sounds cliche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even going back to on the book thing, you mentioned that you had the idea to do the book even like as a teenager. So this was pre-military, life hitting the fan. You had wanted to do this book. And so when you're starting to like come out of the pit there and just the valley of life, like what was there something that caused you to go, all right, I'm staring at this blank screen and I got this blinking cursor and I got this, I got a lot I want to share with people. Was the goal with the book of, I just need to do this from because a lot of people write books for different reasons. Like it could just be from like a personal therapeutic standpoint, or like, man, I want to give this to my kids someday. Like I want them to realize like what mom experienced and went through. And, so maybe that they don't experience this, or I want to give this, when people ask, this would be kind of cool. Or did you see this more as no, I want to get my story out there to as many people as possible in whatever way possible so what was the thought process behind doing the book?
Well, the thought process was, I got tired of people telling my story for me. I got tired of hearing different stories, different rumors that were some truth and some fabricated. and I wanted to take the power back. And we know how to take control of shame. We own our story. We don't try to run from it. We accept what happened, accept our part. Don't settle with the victim mentality anymore, and we move forward. And that was my thought process. I got tired of people telling my story for me. I wanted to beat shame to the ground, and I wanted to finally live up to who I knew I was called to be, and that meant owning my story. And so I knew people wanted to know, like, from my mouth, what happened, like, from the
Yeah.
heart. They really wanted to know, like, how did you do this? Like, you was raised the right way,
Yeah.
in a loving, supportive family. How did this even happen? And yeah, I got tired of people telling my story for me. So I wanted to tell it. I wanted to be unashamed. I wanted to be authentic. And I wanted it to be real, raw, and transparent. Because at that time, I didn't know a whole lot of people who were being real, raw, and transparent. I knew, like, these overall general stories, but I didn't know the stories that told it all,
Yeah.
unashamed. And so I wanted to be that.
So it's one thing to, I'm going to work on a book here and I'm going to post it on social media, and, a few people via like word of mouth, that they heard of the book or they knew of my story, or like, hey, you should come share your story at church or whatever. Like, that's not uncommon necessarily, of people just going like, hey, you got a crazy story and kind of this overcoming obstacles, inspiring type of life story. Come share that with my group or church or whatever it may be. So at what point did you start to shift the thinking more towards, I think I could actually maybe get paid for this. Maybe I could make a business out of this. Maybe I could do this full time. When did your mindset start to shift more that direction?
Well, we know how the algorithm works, right? You think something and you start seeing ads.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I started, of course, like I told you, I was posting about, my book, and I was posting about me speaking at different places and stuff like that. And I started seeing ads about different coaches, different programs. And it was just, at first it was overwhelming because there were so many different people doing so many different courses and all the
Oh, yeah.
things. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, who to trust.
Yeah.
And at that same time too, like, I still had, like, I guess what I'm gonna call, like, a poverty mindset. Like, I didn't want to really invest in myself. I hadn't got that far yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I just started seeing all these ads and stuff. I'm like, okay, so what? I can actually, like, people will actually pay me for this? Because I was getting, like, honorariums, gift cards,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I was cool with that. I
Yeah.
just want to tell my story. And so, yeah, I started seeing ads and stuff, and I started doing my own research about becoming a speaker. And I'm like, wow, like, I identified with it. I resonated with it. I had peace about it. And so I knew that this was my purpose. This is what I was called to do.
Did you find that confidence in doing that started to grow for you? Meaning that the first time someone asked you to come speak and share your story, was that like an immediate response of like, oh, heck yeah, I would love to do this? Because just because like someone has some crazy story doesn't necessarily mean they're like, yeah, I don't want to talk about this, and I don't want to, or like, I don't mind sharing about it in certain contexts, but like, I don't consider myself a public speaker, and I get nervous about public speaking, and therefore I don't want to share this in this context. So even as you started to speak, for honorariums at churches or whatever it may be, was it an immediate reaction of going, oh, I love this. I want to do more of this. I want to do as much as possible of this. And if I can take, further steps with it, that would be even better. Or like, what was your thinking at that point?
Well, at first, I'm introverted, really, really introverted. I can become extroverted when I'm comfortable, right? And so at first, it was like, okay, maybe as long as I can bring a paper with me with everything I need to say on it, then that's fine with me. And that's how it was at first. And then the more research I did, I'm like, okay, I can't keep these note cards. I got to learn how to actually, do a presentation the correct way. And so at first, my introverted self, I was kind of iffy, but I knew that I had to do it. It was crazy because I was scared to be around people and to be in front of people, but it was also a pulling in me, an urgency in me to tell my story. And so even if I wanted to say no, I couldn't say no if I wanted to. I had to do it.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's how it was for me.
So you're going like, okay, I want to do more of this. You're scrolling social media. You see various, ads for various things. And again, just because like you see ads for various things, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to click on any ads. And also like you mentioned, like you're trying to just sift through a bunch of different options that are out there. Like how did you ultimately land on the Speaker Lab?
Yeah, and so I was doing, probably what other people was doing. I was getting, free information here, free information there.
Yeah.
And I had a whole bunch of pieces, a whole bunch of puzzle pieces, but none of them suckers stuck together.
Yeah.
Whenever I actually applied it in reality, in real life. And so none of it got me the results that I wanted. I was sending out probably thousands of emails a week, and I'm like, man, ain't nobody hired. What's going on? I need some help. I need somebody who's done it to actually, show me the steps. And I reached out to the Speaker Lab actually like a year prior, before I actually went through the program. And like I told you, I had that poverty mindset, so I was like, no, I can't afford this, so I ain't gonna be able to do it. And so I was looking for, like I wouldn't say cheaper options, but more freer options.
Yeah,
You know
I get
what I'm
that.
saying?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was looking for stuff like that. And it just got to the point where, again, like my heart just changed. I'm like, okay, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to be serious about it, and you're going to have to invest in yourself. I had to get to the I'm worth it mindset.
Yeah.
And this Speaker Lab popped right back up. Like I got an email from the Speaker Lab, kind of like checking in on me.
Yeah.
Like, hey Kimberly, we haven't spoke to you in a year. This is what's new. Set up a call. If you want to find. I'm like, okay. Right when my heart changed, I got that email, Grant. Right
Wow.
when my heart changed, and so I set up a call. And when I tell you everything aligned, and I ended up signing up. That I think it was that next day. And I started the Speaker Lab.
That's crazy. When because it sounds like for a long time there, or for some period of time, you were going at it on your own. You were doing things, and like you said, there's a lot of free information out there. This podcast is free. There's hundreds of hours and hundreds of episodes of this show, and there's a lot of great resources out there. So you're going at it on your own, and you're not getting the type of traction or progress that you hoped. What do you think was not working for you, or what do you feel like was missing at that point?
I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to talk to decision makers. I didn't know, what a decision maker was really.
Yeah.
I didn't know about a follow-up system. I didn't know how I was sending emails a mile long, and yeah, there were so many things I was doing that wasn't really productive, that wasn't effective. And I didn't, there was just so much I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. And I was hearing different things from different people. And I'm like, yeah, I got to do something different. But there was just so many things that I was doing that I knew wasn't productive. It wasn't giving me the outcome that I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're putting in the work, and because there's kind of like two sides of the equation. There's kind of like the physical side of like, all right, I'm researching, I'm doing my homework, I'm reaching out to people, I'm following up with people, I've got that. But then like you kind of alluded to, there's also like the mental, emotional side of, are you dealing with like self-doubts and insecurities, going like, wait a second, I'm pretty introverted, and here I am trying to like reach out to someone and ask them to pay me money for me to come stand on stage and talk. Are you dealing with some of those like doubts and insecurities and fears?
Absolutely. I didn't know how to ask for money.
Yeah.
And I had the mentality of, especially for churches, like I'm supposed to tell my story for free. Like you're supposed to do that. Like you out of order if you don't.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how to put a price on put a price or a value on the value that I brought. So I didn't know how to do any of that. And so I was going through an emotional turmoil, not knowing how to put a price on things, not knowing how to put my presentation together. I thought telling my story was enough, but people ain't paying you to tell your story. People want thought leadership. People want you to solve their problems. And I didn't even know that until somebody had to teach me that. And so I'm like, okay, my story is not, it's good, but it ain't getting me paid.
Yeah.
People want me to tell my story, but I'm like, all right, so I got to figure out what's in my story that's valuable and that's marketable. And I needed some help to do that.
All right, listener, I want you to go back the last 30 seconds there. Everything she just said was worth the price of admission here. That was so good because the thing that I think is important is like there's a lot of people out there who are in your spot years ago, Kimberly, of going like, I have this crazy story, and I've had a couple people that are interested in this story. And when I'm sitting around the table with some friends, people want to hear the story, and like I think I could be a speaker. I think I should be paid for this. And like the reality is like, yeah, people like a good story and a good comeback story. Like that feels good and it's inspirational and motivational. But at the same time, people want to know like, and that's crazy that you had all that happen. But like, I've never been addicted to cocaine and I haven't attempted to, and I haven't had this happen. And so good for you, I guess. But like, what's that have to do with me? Like, how does that impact my life? Like intrinsically, every single one of us are selfish going like, but what's that have to do with me? How's that going to help me? So I think you are so dead on there of connecting the dots from here's my story, but why does an audience need to care? And how does this impact their life? And how do they apply it to their life? And what does that look like, for them? What did that process look like for you to make that switch from going, this is just my story, which people are interested in. People want to hear. It's a crazy story to going like, but how do I actually make it about the audience? Like, how did you flip it toward that?
I had to get an outside voice. I didn't. I knew that my story was powerful. I just didn't know how to pull the assets out of it, right? Like I knew that my calling was the story, but I didn't know what was a solution.
Yeah.
And so I had to get an outside voice, and that's where the coaching and the mentorship comes in at. And not aside from that, not knowing what the assets were, what also was schools looking for, right? And so those things had to match up, not just what I can pull out my story, but yeah, that was a time. That was a time trying to figure out, like what problem can I solve with my story, and I have to be comfortable talking about this. This has to be something I'm passionate about too. And yeah, I pulled 5 principles out of that, and they have been doing excellent since then.
There's one of the things we talk a lot about on the show is that, and talk with students on is there's kind of this overlap between what you're passionate about, what you're knowledgeable on, what you're interested in, what you care about, what your story is, your background, and then what is it that organizations and groups actually hire speakers to talk about, And so how did you kind of figure out on the latter part of that of going, but what is it that schools actually hire speakers? What is it that student leadership groups actually hire speakers to talk about? How did you figure that part out and then able to kind of connect the dots back to your story?
Research, actually do the work. Because at first I was trying to find like an easy way out. I was trying to find like this golden freaking road or path to just easily get me speaking gigs. Or I wanted somebody I just knew the Speaker Lab had this magical thing that was going to get me a paid speaking engagement by the next day. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is you have to put in the work.
Yep.
You can be given all the right tools, all the right strategies, but you, the person, has to put in the work. And so I had to do the research and actually put in the work, invest not only, I had to invest my time into me, and so I can figure out what that was. But yeah, I had to put in some work to figure out what that was.
Do you find that that was one of the bigger hurdles for you early on is putting in that work? Because like you described there, I always use the analogy of like, it's kind of like signing up to work with the Speaker Lab is like signing up for a gym membership. It's like, it's good, but like you still got to go to the gym and do the work, like getting a gym membership, hiring a trainer, like that's great. It's better than nothing. But that alone doesn't all of a sudden make you like a healthy person. And so signing up to work with the Speaker Lab like it doesn't do anything on its own. Like you still got to do the work. We want to be there to like hold your hand and support you and kick your butt and challenge you and all those things. But like you said, you still got to do the work. Do you find that continues to be true today? Like, do you find that things have gotten easier, or do you find that like, no, it's still work. You still got to put in the reps.
Yeah, you still got to put in the work, but what the Speaker Lab is giving me is a system, a process that works. Like it's a simple process. It's a simple solution, if you must. It's a simple solution to put into your business to do on an everyday basis, but it's just repetitive, right? You just have to keep doing it. Even when you don't see immediate results, you still have to be consistent with it. And so just yeah, you have to. Yeah, you're gonna always have to put in the work
Yeah.
until that momentum and traction. And even then, you still, you just gonna have to continue putting in the work. If you want to see the outcome that you want to see, you got to put in the work to get it.
And so right now you're doing this in conjunction with your full-time job. Is the goal that ultimately you could go full-time as a speaker?
That's definitely the goal.
Cool.
Definitely the goal. Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think needs to happen in order for that to happen?
I guess a little bit more momentum.
Yeah.
I truly believe that will happen by the end of 2025. I don't think I'm gonna be working here. Ooh, don't tell them that. But I don't think I'm gonna be working here by the end of
We'll keep that a
2025.
secret between us.
Yeah, yeah, but definitely, I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track. My pipeline, it's looking better and better, right?
Yeah.
And so I believe that if I keep doing what I'm doing now, I will be full time by the end of 2025.
That's cool. Let's wrap up with this. You mentioned like obviously had a crazy story, but then also as you started to build and grow your speaking business, there's been plenty of times where you've had again those doubts, those insecurities, those fears. Who am I to be up there and sharing? And why should I get paid for this? And am I ridiculous or crazy to think I could actually do this? I'm a quiet introverted person, and all those things that just like talk in our heads. Like there are plenty of people who are listening right now who are in the same spot of going like, man, I would love to be where Kimberly's at. However, I've got these same like limiting beliefs and things that are holding me back. What would you say to those speakers that are listening?
That they are the proof. They are the proof. I am the proof that hope exists, right? That this is purpose. That if you keep doing, like, you have to find that system, find that process that works for you. But you are the proof that it works, and you should be paid for that proof. Everything that you've gone through in your life for you to get the knowledge that you have, the wisdom and the revelation that you have, that's worth value.
Yeah.
And so there has to be an exchange, a monetary exchange, an exchange of value, right? And so, yeah, what you've gone through, it wasn't in vain. You didn't go through it for nothing, and it is valuable. And there should be an exchange of value for when you tell it and when you give what you've not freely been given because it cost you. Yeah.
Very good. Kimberly, I'm so proud of you. You're killing it. You've done such a phenomenal job, and that's because of the work that you're doing. And so we, the Speaker Lab, we love being a tiny, tiny, tiny little part of that, but you're the one that's making it happen. So if people want to find out more about you, what you're up to, we want to check you out online, where can we follow you?
Yep, my website, KimberlyClarkSpeaks.com, and every social media platform, Kimberly Clark Speaks Teens.
Beautiful. Kimberly, we appreciate it. You're awesome.
Thank you.